Welcome back. I'm joined in the studio with Dr.Mohamad Elkhafif, Islamic scholar. Pleasure to have you as usual with us. Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure to be here.
With us also this evening is Dr. Freddy Elbaiady, who was a parliamentarian and also former member of the Protestant Church's Supreme Council. A pleasure to have you.
Current member of the Protestant Church.
Oh, current, I'm sorry. Pleasure to have you both with us.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, before we go into the conference that is taking place, or that wrapped up earlier today in Saudi Arabia, confronting terrorism, so to speak, and we also had a conference recently that was held in the United States also pertaining to terrorism. It's an issue which we have called on for years. It's not something that is new, and maybe Egypt raised the flag years ago that this is an issue that will leave no one in peace, so to speak. Let me just clarify, because our viewers are mostly not from Egypt and not familiar with our culture maybe and our religions, and I'm saying religions in plural. Is there any holy religion that in any shape or format tolerates any form of terrorism, even if it's to get you to go to the church and pray properly, or go to the mosque and pray properly, in what we would call the jihad, allegedly? Is there any force in a religious practice or a religion practice that any book tolerates? Dr. Freddy.
I believe religion is a life. It's not political statements, or not only words we speak about or teach about. So a religion should be a life that's attracting others to this religion by the way the followers of the religions live. So if a religion is not speaking about love, if a religion is not speaking about peace, is not fighting the evil events that happen around us, I think I would question that this is a real religion. So I believe that religions in general should be actually addressing the issue of peace and love, and teaching the people how to fight the evil that's it's actually against any humanitarian feeling, and not only religious people, but anybody with a humanitarian feeling or thinking should be actually condemning the terrorism or the killing or what these tragic events we see around us in the whole world. And as you just mentioned, that terrorism doesn't stop at one border of a country. No. And I was in a visit to the States a few months ago, and I met with some Congress people, and I told them that terrorism will not only affect our region, but it will reach your place. If you don't stand with Egypt in fighting terrorism, you will be harmed. And I believe we see now terrorism reaches Europe and France, and before that was in the States, and everywhere. It's
an international phenomenon. It's not a local phenomenon.
And the whole world should actually stand, and all religions should stand in real, not only teaching, but also practice in fighting the terrorism.
Dr. Mohamad, I know I've asked you this question so many times before, but I will re-ask it, maybe for the 1000th time. Does Islam in any way tolerate, promote, condone, house, in any shape or format, under any pretext, terrorism?
Absolutely not. Again, for the 1000th time. As you,
I know, I'm sorry, I'm going to keep asking you that question, but in light of what's taking place.
Yeah. Absolutely not, because the message of Islam, just exactly like the message of real Judaism and Christianity and so forth. The message is to spread peace on earth. So spreading peace on earth, by definition, cannot tolerate terrorism, cannot tolerate violence, cannot tolerate coercion or persecution. What we are suffering from actually is the misinterpretation of the doctrines of the various religions for the benefit of powers or power mongers who are abusing, not using actually, abusing this misinterpretation of the religious texts in order to achieve certain, I'm sorry to say, worldly benefits or worldly ambitions. But for a religion to tolerate violence, this is I mean, is a paradox. It's as if something that opposes the other thing, and then how come that such a religion could tolerate any kind of violence?
What we see at the street level, not just in Egypt, but if I take the region as a whole, the reason why some are saying we were ripe ground, so to speak, for this divide and conquer theory, or for meddling, the easy meddling with people's brains, especially the youth, because this is the danger part here, that you are manipulating or mismanipulating the young generation, is due to the lack of proper religious education. And this is what Sheikh Ahmed al-Tayyib, Al-Azhar Sheikh, raised in Saudi Arabia, that we need to emphasize the issue of proper religious education. I cannot, quite frankly, restrict it just to Islam or Judaism or Christianity. I mean, this is a comprehensive thing. When we talk to the young people in Egypt, for example, whether they're Muslims or Christians, in reality, they're not well informed of not only their religion, but let alone someone else's religion. Your comment, or am I too harsh in saying that this is a catastrophe that we have?
You're not too harsh. It is a catastrophe, actually. I agree with you. I believe we have the two major eternal problems in our country: the ignorance and the poverty. And the ignorance doesn't only mean people who are not educated or school educated, but I mean the proper education and proper culture and awareness. And if you have young people who are not well educated and who are needy, they need the money, they are poor, they can be easily manipulated.
Yes.
And also another problem is that for years we had some seeds of fundamentalism that actually we were not used to before in our
fanaticism.
Country. Fanaticism.
Because fundamentals of religion are accepted. Yeah, fanaticism.
So these seeds actually, which were imported from outside, and we, for a wrong approach, we were actually hiding these seeds, and we were not addressing it properly. And we used to address whenever there is any sectarial violence or a clash between Christians and Muslims, we would address it in a superficial way and deny the problem, and just have this common scene of a priest and an imam hugging and kissing each other and saying we love each other, and all the religions are about love and peace, and there is no problem. But there are problems that actually were hidden for years, and we have to address it properly. We have to address the way of religious education. And when I say religious education, it's not only about theoretical education or
not the school books.
Yeah, not the school books,
but,
or information. But
even the school books, in all due honesty, do they make you understand, like, and tolerate other religions?
There are some school books actually that doesn't speak about tolerance, but the other way.
Does it even mention anything about the other religion and the core of the other religion?
And recently there was many people who were actually speaking about the teaching that actually speak about hating the other or not accepting the other religions. And we should actually address this way of teachings. And again, we should also go deeper, not only about theoretical teaching, but the real living and the real practice between different religions. And I'm a medical doctor, and I started a hospital in Qanat al-Khairiyya that was almost 20 years ago. And the main goal of this hospital was to get Christians and Muslims to work together in one place in a charity-based project. And this really actually changed the whole community around us. And it's not only theoretical dialogue between Christians and Muslims, but it's really daily work and daily interaction. And I believe with such projects or such cooperation and life, we can address the inter-religious dialogue in a practical way. And we should actually deal with religion not only as a superficial thing or as a title in your ID. And it shouldn't be something written in your ID, it should be something in your heart. You believe it and you live it, and you teach the people, and you testify about your religion by the way you live.
I very strongly side with Dr. Freddy's point of view, and I would just like to add another factor that makes the youth sometimes overreactive to religious matters. When we speak of youth, we are speaking about people between the age, let's say, from 15 to 20, 21, 22. Fortunately or unfortunately, this is the romantic stage.
So if you're over 22, you're no longer in the youth category.
Well, I'm speaking about the very young.
The young people, the very young, the childhood phase.
Yes. Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. We are still young, of course.
Of course.
But the very young, this stage during which they are recruited by abusing powers, this stage is a very romantic stage in the young person's life.
Yes.
And he dreams of absolute principles, absolute goodness, absolute everything. So he is a very good, a very ripe prey to those who want to recruit him or embrace him in their power struggle. So adding romanticism to poverty, as Dr. Freddy said, to ignorance, to so many social islands that are in our society, all this makes them most susceptible to be taken outside of the moderate path. But we have to remember that the matter actually starts much before that. I mean, in Islam, of course, parents are supposed to teach the basic principles to their children, starting from the age of 7, for example, prayer and so forth. And then there comes, in parallel, the role of the school, who teaches the doctrine and teaches the principles of religion. And there comes the role of the parents again when they are supposed to track what the children are doing.
Are learning in school.
What they are learning in school. And it is not enough for a parent to say, oh, my child is a very pious person. He goes to the mosque or to the church every day and stays there for hours. It is the role of the parent and the responsibility and the right to track what is being taught to their children and in which direction they are taken. So it starts very early on, and it should be an ongoing policy or an ongoing strategy,
Yes.
by the main objective of which to produce a moderate, pious, decent person. One of the great teachings I cherish very much is one of the greatest scholars says, teach people religion by your silence. So how? The question was how? So the answer very simply was by your deeds. Teaching by example is one of the main and fundamental and basic and you name it. Of embedding decent and proper religious principles in young people in particular.
Gentlemen, we have one of our problems is mixing religion and politics, and unfortunately, as of late, we've seen with the Brotherhood in office how the religious umbrella can be used as a shield to capture people's hearts and to push forth political ambition. How can we divide? Because they're both part and parcel of our day-to-day living, so to speak. So as human beings, maybe it's sometimes difficult for us, and maybe we overlap when we mix the two. How can we divide that we do not pollute religion with politics?
Yeah. It's actually a problem with some people who believe that religion should be mixed with politics. And I agree with you that religion is something pure. and shouldn't be polluted with politics. Politics is not, it's man-made. And it's all about man-made plans and visions and projects we do. It might succeed and might fail. And this was actually my personal argument with the supporters of the Muslim Brotherhood when they were voting for them, because they thought they were voting...
terrorist brotherhood.
Yeah. They thought they were voting for the religion. And I always said that this is a political, they have the political agenda, and they might fail. And actually they failed. And what if they failed? Would you say that religion failed? Nobody would accept that. So you shouldn't mix politics with religion, because religion is something heavenly and divine and pure, while politics is something man-made, and it has a possibility of succeeding or not. So the dividing politics away from religion is purifying or keeping the religion away from the political, which is usually the politics is not very straightforward, and it might involve some manipulations.
Of course.
And though I believe that you should have your religious principles when you deal with politics. I don't say that if you are a politician that you have to lie. Many people say that if you are a politician, then you are a liar. But I counter-argument this and say, no, you have to have your religious faith and principles when you deal with politics. But this doesn't mean that you mix religion with politics.
Dr. Mohamad, we have a problem when it comes to the proper interpretation and practice of Islamic laws. Our laws and regulations, or the Sharia is very, very clear-cut. Yet, somehow it is politicized in practice.
That is correct. When we talk about Sharia, excuse me, when we talk about Sharia, Adina, we have to bear in mind that, as Dr. Freddy again said, that religion is not only something about prayer and so forth. Religion is a way of life. So in order to apply the Sharia, we have to, the Sharia has to be applied in a holistic way, or in a global way. I cannot inflict a punishment while the conditions of the society itself force its individuals to commit it. Okay. For example, in Islam, if a person suffers due to lack of food or lack of shelter or lack of, the person who is to be held responsible for that and should be punished for that is the ruler. Not the person who did this such a crime. So it is not possible to ask for the application of cutting one's hand while he has nothing, while he can't find food for his children. The jurisprudence in Islam has to be done in an integrated way. So if we do not have the right inputs, we shall definitely not have right outputs. And if the society or the videos of the society do not receive the rights as the jurisprudence said, then they cannot be persecuted as the jurisprudence condemns them. So this is the stumbling block against which many people fail to understand that jurisprudence is not only the penal law. On the contrary, the penal law is a very, very small part of Islamic jurisprudence. The major part of the Islamic jurisprudence is to build the proper and prosperous and pious human society. Like all other religions, by the way. It's not much different from the other religions, but it is maybe more detailed.
Gentlemen, recently a conference regarding terrorism was held in the United States, and maybe the positive note of the fact that this conference was held is maybe the United States will start taking it more seriously as to the effect of terrorism and the fact that it has absolutely no boundaries and nobody will be left in peace. We'll be taking a look at the following report and then continue our discussion.
The hastily organized anti-terrorism conference held in Washington, D.C. last week has prompted mixed reactions, with U.S. observers criticizing the U.S. administration for its handling of the extremist threat and international observers accusing the world superpower of not taking the fight to the degree of an all-encompassing battle to end it. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry had expressed his country's commitment to face the spread of extremism and terror throughout the world, with a unified strategy and a strengthening of the role of civil society, especially youth and women as well as families of victims. The U.S. had called for this conference following the terror attack in Paris, yet many view it as an insufficient and hasty measure. Egypt's Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry had taken part in the conference and stressed that there is no difference between terror organizations anywhere in the world, and that dealing with the threat should be without double standards, or shifting the world's efforts to one terror organization without the others. The foreign minister had taken part in the UN Security Council special session on the situation in Libya after the slaughter of 21 Egyptians by the Daesh terrorists. On the Egyptian airstrike on specific Daesh targets in that country, Shoukry affirmed that the US administration did not express any disdain. On the contrary, offered condolences and support to the Egyptian people and understanding to the official measures taken in this regard. The country's official stance on the issue is that there is a dire necessity to deal with terrorism without double standards and call it as it is, with an imperative demand to cut off funding for such groups and those who support them. While on the UN Security Council draft resolution, Shoukry affirmed that the Arab proposal seeks to lift the ban on arms supplies to the Libyan official government, which was elected freely in fair, free and internationally supervised elections. This is in a bid to assist that government in combating the terrorist organizations on its soil and secure a viability for the state. Moreover, the Arab proposal aims at securing that no smuggled weapons can reach terrorists via the shores of Libya, as well as assisting the legitimate government in combating terror. Egypt had liaised with the Libyan government the airstrike that targeted us according to international law, a point that was affirmed by the foreign minister of the neighboring state. The question now is, what will conferences achieve in combating this phenomenon?
Welcome back. Gentlemen, the United States held a conference to confront or to address the issue of terrorism. Your comments?
It's a good start. Maybe it's late, but it's a good start to start the United States pay attention to the terrorism. I believe that terrorism would not be fighted by conferences only. They should actually take it more serious. If they want really to address terrorism, they should take more serious steps toward stopping the sources of financing terrorism or supporting their political agendas in our region.
You're making their job very difficult, Dr. Freddy.
But this should be done if they really want to fight terrorism. And I'm addressing this from here to my friends in the States who are actually working in politics, that they should actually take it more serious, not only for the benefit of our region, but for their own benefits. Because as we said at the beginning, that terrorism doesn't stop at a certain border, but it's a global phenomena and it's a global problem. So they should actually take their role in allying with other countries in fighting the terrorists, maybe in military way, and again in not supporting their political agendas. Still till this moment we see that they are receiving leaders from the Muslim Brotherhoods who have been proved that they have their strong connections with the terroristic groups in the regions, and they're
conducting terroristic on a daily basis, terrorist activities in Egypt, for example. They are
received in an official way in the White House and in the Foreign Affairs Office. This actually should be stopped, and they should take more serious steps with other countries who really want to fight terrorism.
Well, regarding the conference that we were talking about now, I think this conference is 14 years late. This conference should have been the very first step that should have been taken after the 9/11 incident. Instead of invading other countries and destroying cultures and destroying the infrastructures of countries that have proven that they have very little to do with 9/11. This conference should have been held in, let's say, October 2001. No more than 1 month after that incident.
Yes.
And during this conference should have been the nucleus for a global effort to besiege terroristic organizations and to drought their financial resources.
But when you talk about 2001, Egypt suffered from terrorism way before 2001.
I understand.
We've had harsh incidents in the early 90s.
I'm speaking that this conference was held in the States.
Yes.
So this was really the time.
Okay.
And what we are seeing now actually is that terrorist organizations are considered as part of the global political game. And they are not declared as enemies of the states, even in which they conduct their terroristic acts. So the picture is not a very clear-cut picture. No, sometimes what happened when the Christians were slaughtered in Libya? Why didn't Mr. Obama say a single word about that? Okay, let's not. I mean, Muslims. It's okay. We have to admit that they have become a prey now. But what about
what are the human rights organizations?
Human rights organizations.
Okay. Or were they not humans that had rights?
Where is the Republican Party in America, which is basically pro-religion? So the picture is very vague. And the political game is being played very toughly now, and nobody can claim that there is a consensus that terrorism should be put to an end.
Why is it that in 9/11 we managed to raise the issue of this Islamophobia? And I believe that we had this discussion right here in that studio, whereby we even put a lot of blame on ourselves that for those who have misinterpreted the core of our religion, we blame ourselves before we blame those who are misinterpreting in the fact that we have not delivered the correct and the ample information or image. Why is it that in 9/11 you raise the issue of Islamophobia and you go ahead and invade and attack, and in 2012 you support one of the strongest and maybe most lethal Islamic organizations, or I would say alleged Islamic organizations, because this was a camouflage, which is the Terrorist Brotherhood? Why is it that they were supporting them wholeheartedly in taking over a country, not because I am affiliated to that country? I would say it has an important weight, but Egypt has quite a strong geopolitical position and weight within that region. Why is it was so easy to attack Afghanistan and attack Iraq because of the terrorist Muslims, yet plant them in Egypt or support their being planted in Egypt?
The phrase here is quote-unquote creative chaos. The phrase that was invented by Mrs. Rice sometime in the last few years. But she made a fatal mistake, because what she actually did was she raised the dust of, let's say, 2 inches of a 50 feet deep culture. So as soon as this dust settled, everything went back to where it should be. And her idea of change and the new agenda for New Middle East and the energy resources, etc., it all boils down to oil and other resources that are in our area. and our political position, and our geopolitical position. Egypt is in a very critical position, and about 250 years ago, Napoleon said, if you rule Egypt, you can rule the world. So we have never been left alone. Foreign invasion now is out of date. So let them kill each other. Why kill our people? So let them kill each other by all those turmoils, religious feud, class feud, like in communism and so forth. So we need to for a moment to stop and stand and look at who we are, where we want to go, because it is ridiculous, excuse me for the expression, to try to pose a good impression or a good image. Reality is not good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's either a good reality, so it will give a good image, or the opposite. I think Dr. Freddy agrees with me
yes,
here.
I fully agree with you, and I believe that, as you mentioned, that you can say that the United States is taking a side or against a religion or the other one, but they see how they serve their political agendas, and they use the attack of a religion or supporting a religion to serve their political agenda. So this is what happened early when they started to attack the Afghanistan. It wasn't attack against Islam, but they used
it was a pretext, a justification. Why would I enter, or how to enter this region?
And in the same context, when we saw that the churches in Egypt were burned and were attacked, nobody took a step in the States or said a word in condemning these attacks against the churches. So the policy doesn't care about any religion or support or attack another religion, but they use the religions, and they use the events that happen from a follower of a certain religion to attack the religious or the religion of these or the countries who follow the religion. So it's just a way of the same way as we said that mixing religion with politics sometimes to reach some political goals. So they took the advantage of those 9/11 that those who actually committed the attacks were said to be Muslims. So they used this event to attack the countries, the Islamic countries. It wasn't a goal to attack the religion, but to attack the countries and to serve their own political agendas.
Gentlemen,
if I may add something here to Dr. Freddy's statement. Oil in the Caspian Sea, its only way out for export is through a pipeline that has to go through Afghanistan. And the Afghan government refused to grant the multinational companies, multinational oil companies, the right of way to build this pipeline. The agreement to build this pipeline was signed 2 weeks after Afghanistan was invaded. Period.
No comment.
No comment.
Gentlemen, if we took a look at things on the ground in Egypt in our first revolution, I believe in 1912, the Egyptians sided with each other regardless of their religion, their race, their color, their income bracket, their sex. This was the real Egypt. There were no boundaries between people. And unfortunately, as of late, political agendas have been trying to set those boundaries. And I would say political agendas in addition to the ignorance, because when you differentiate between a male and a female in human rights, then this is an ignorance, cultural and religious ignorance, because you cannot allow something that even holy books prohibit. How can we overcome this as soon as possible? And I'm saying as soon as possible because we're trying to get back on track and want to get back on the right track. At the same time, there is concern that our upcoming parliamentary elections, which will be held soon to wrap up the third and final leg of our roadmap, will be manipulated by alleged religion or religious slogans. How can this be controlled?
I believe the first step that we said that we have two major problems, the poverty and the quality of teaching. I wouldn't say only ignorance, but we have some good curriculums or full of information, but it's not the same quality or the same approach you would like to use. And also, we should actually start to tackle some legal problems regarding the freedom of worship. For example, we should, speaking openly about the freedom of worship, the problem of Christians building churches. This law actually by the Constitution should be applied with the first Parliament session according to the Constitution.
This already was addressed in the Constitution,
yeah,
and so many other issues should be applied.
To a law, and I believe it will be soon done. So we need to start to tackle the religion as a life, not only as teaching or verses we recite. Why wouldn't you? Why would you tag me in my ID as a Christian or a Muslim? Why would you, when you deal with a person, you need to know his religion? Religion is something private, something between a man and God. So if we start to tag this, I know this is a very controversial issue and very sensitive issue, but we have to go deeper to address these problems. I believe it's not healthy that you, in the religious classes in the school, when you start to teach religion, you divide Christians and Muslims. My older child, Nile, he was 5 years old. When we started to get religious classes, it was the first time he was exposed to know that Ali, his friend, is not of the same religion. And because they have to be separated in the religious class. They have been with the kindergarten for 2 years, and they were very close friends. They didn't think about the religion of each person. So you start from a very early age. You divide the people, and you start to tag the people according to their religion. I believe religion is a very important thing, and we should emphasize on the religion and teaching, but it shouldn't be used in a way to divide people or to tag people or to deal with them on a religious base. It should be something more educated, more dealt with in the church and in the mosque.
How can we prevent it from manipulating our political life? Because this is a concern. I mean, quite frankly, there is a concern that the Brotherhood will try to get seats in the upcoming parliament, and they will still play with religious slogans on people that are not informed enough.
There is no way to prevent manipulating the people unless you immunize them against manipulation. And by giving them, if you don't give them the right teaching or the right religious teaching and the quality of teaching, and you teach them from their early childhood how to be tolerant to other religions, you can't immunize them from being manipulated. So we should start from the very early age. If you didn't do this, they can be easily manipulated, and they can be easily directed with the religious slogans. So starting early and immunizing them. If a child has been grown in a tolerant way to the other religion, or not learning how to deal with other people on a religious basis, you cannot actually manipulate him, or he will not be deceived by the religious slogans that the Muslim Brotherhoods or any people with the, we call them the political Islamic parties who are using these slogans are trying to manipulate people. I believe there would be some of them in the coming parliament, but I don't believe there will be majority, because most of the Egyptians now they understand, or they understood the lesson from the former Muslim Brotherhood regime, and they believe that those people were actually using the religion, not genuinely following or applying the religion in the right way.
Dr. Mohamad.
On a more global view, the issue here becomes the eternal issue of, is it the egg or the chicken? Because we'll deal with that after the program. But of course, most people would say the chicken. The point is that we are facing a problem of awareness. The awareness of religious doctrine and the clarity of the doctrine that we want to adopt is the backbone of what we want to do, or of what we want to be. So who is going to teach the new generations if the older generations are not aware enough? And how are we going to make the older generation more aware so that they can teach the younger generations?
Yes.
This is, I think this is a step-by-step or a pyramid that has to be built consequentially or on cascade between the two.
Years. It's long-term.
It is a long-term issue. And of course, as we all know, the parliament is nothing but a reflection of the real society. So what we are suffering in the real society will definitely reflect on the parliament. But to ameliorate the danger or ameliorate the defects, the Constitution has put some very good guidelines that will safeguard at least part, or will safeguard in part the political process in Egypt. Let's hope so.
Well, gentlemen, unfortunately our time is up. Thank you very much for your fruitful input. Wish you very best of luck for your endeavors. I'd like to thank you, the viewers. Wish you a very pleasant evening. Tomorrow another day and another debate, and good night.